I was still in a fog. My brain didn't feel fully woken up yet. I looked up and saw a head peering into my tent. It looked like Cody. I rubbed my eyes, but really it was the darkness that was preventing me from seeing anything of his face. I said, "Cody?" thinking he was waking me up to take my turn of keeping watch. I said groggily, "Is it my turn?" I stared at the head peering at me in my sleeping bag, slowly growing more awake every second. Then I heard the zipper to the tent quickly zip up, and his head disappeared. I laid back down in my sleeping bag, but only for a second. I suddenly had some weird moment of clarity where I shot to an upright position and listened as the footsteps walked away. "Cody," I said. He didn't answer. I unzipped my tent to peek out to the campsite. The fire was dead. Cody wasn't out there. I went over to Cody's tent, which was zipped up. I unzipped it and looked inside to see Cody fast asleep in his sleeping bag. I got chills, goosebumps, whatever you want to call it, and answer. I almost shit myself at the realization out to the campsite. I started shaking him awake. When he finally woke, I told him someone's here at the campsite. It took him a minute to come back to reality, just like I did. But when he did, he grabbed his bear spray. He said he must have dozed off while reading. He said I should sleep in the tent with him tonight. But to do that, I need my sleeping bag. He came outside of the tent with me and stood watch as I ran to my tent to grab my sleeping bag. In my tent, grabbing my sleeping bag, I heard that goddamn humming again from outside. I grabbed it and Cody whispered at me to hurry up. I said, "You hear that too?" He said yes. We both got back in his tent and zipped up, with our cans of bear spray by our sides. I tell you, in those moments, I wanted nothing more than for a bear to come and save the day. The hours dragged on as I stayed up while Cody slept. After 3 long, horrible hours, I woke him up and we switched. When Cody woke me up, it was almost dawn. It was light outside, so we packed everything up. By the time we were done, there was plenty of light to hike back to the car. While we could have driven somewhere else and had another night of camping elsewhere, neither of us were feeling it anymore. This was a haunting experience, and I think we both just wanted to be in the safety of our houses. It's been 6 years since this happened, and he's hit me up a few times since then about camping. But I haven't really had interest since this experience. People are just too scary. I was someone out there stalking our campsite, and the sight of that person's head in the dark, just looking into my tent, it was straight up from a nightmare. I may never go camping again, honestly. My friends and I rented a beach house in Florida. I never could have expected how things would have turned out. It was the 4 of us in a cramped car driving down there. The house was directly on the beach. It was on this road that had the bay in front of the house across the street, and then in the backyard was literally the beach. There were some huge houses on this road, and some smaller, more normal-looking ones. This was one of the more modest-looking ones. It had 4 bedrooms, so a bedroom for each of us. The houses were spaced out on this road, creating a sense of privacy. And the whole time we were unloading the car out front, not a single car passed by on this road. The interior of the house was decent. It wasn't spectacular, but it was modest, clean, and the owners were really pushing a beach theme with the wall decor. I guess it would make sense considering the location. There was even a decorative surfboard in one corner of the living room behind the TV. The living room looked out to the back deck, which then looked out to the beach. The view was amazing. The deck wasn't elevated very high off the ground. It was just 2 steps down and onto the sand. We all claimed our bedrooms. I managed to get one of the rooms with a view of the beach. First thing we did after settling in was, of course, walking outside and laying on the beach. We all went in the water at one point and then played football. We were definitely on the beach for a few hours. We seemed to be the only ones on the beach apart from this older-looking couple way down the beach. Afterwards, we went out to eat, and then started bar hopping in the town area. When we Ubered back, it was dark out. We went outside on the beach to fuck around and play late-night football while we were kind of drunk. As I was running to grab the ball after missing a catch, I noticed something in the water. The moon reflecting on the ocean was the only reason I could see it. I said, "What the fuck is that?" out loud, and then realized it was a person standing in the water, about waist deep. My friends looked over and said they saw it too. It was only a little weird because of the time. It was like past midnight. But hey, if a local wants to go for a midnight swim, that's their business. We then went to sit on the deck and drink beers for a while until we got tired. And one by one, everyone started going inside to go to sleep. My friend John and I were the last ones out there. I had been every once in a while glancing in the direction I saw that person before in the water, just out of curiosity. So eventually, when I shot a glance in that direction, I spotted someone standing on the beach. They appeared to be just standing there facing us. It was kind of creepy. Being a neighbor, I didn't want to be rude, but I wondered if it was the same person. We tried to ignore it, but John was facing that person, and after a while, he said they were still just standing there facing us. I stood up and looked over and saw he was right. I yelled out, "Is everything okay?" John asked, "Why do you do that?" I honestly didn't know what I was expecting. They didn't even reply anything though. We were officially creeped out, so we went inside. The other two, Travis and Liam, were already in their rooms, probably knocked out from drinking. So John and I decided to just call it a night too, so that we could have a full day tomorrow. If I had to guess, it was 12:30 to 1 a.m., which was honestly on the earlier side, but we were all burnt out from the long day. I went to my room after brushing my teeth. I looked out the window wanting to take a look to the ocean before crawling into bed. This is where the creepiness factor escalated substantially, because there was now someone standing in front of the back deck, facing the house. I felt like they were facing my window. The figure of the person appeared to be male, considering the slightly larger frame. It was undoubtedly the same person from before. I called John's name. He didn't reply. So I ran to his room and banged on his door, telling him to come out. He came out pretty quickly, and I led him to my window to look outside, but now the person was gone. I swore to him that the person from earlier was just standing as still as before right in front of our deck. He believed me. We weren't about to go outside and look around, though. I took one more look to make sure that they were still gone, and then I shut the blind to the bedroom window. But as I lay awake in bed, rolling from side to side, trying to sleep, I just couldn't shake the feeling that someone was still outside. Who was that person? Why were they creeping around? My thoughts were interrupted by the sickening sound of a fist knocking on the bedroom window. I felt like my insides just shriveled up and my heart completely dropped out of my body. I laid silent and frozen. Moments later, another light set of knocks on the glass. I didn't dare lift the blind though. I couldn't gather the courage to. I almost yelled, "Who is it?" but I stopped myself. Instead, I ran out to the living room, screaming for everyone to wake up. Everyone, one by one, came out of their rooms. No one was at the window when we checked. All four of us went out to the deck and turned on the lights to the deck. We looked out onto the beach and didn't see anyone. We also checked the front and sides of the house. No one. John and I had to explain to the other two what they missed when they fell asleep. We kept the backyard lights on that night. The next day, John and I went to the two nearest neighbors and asked them if they had also experienced someone knocking on their windows or doors. One of the neighbors told us a genuinely freaky encounter he had a week earlier. Someone knocked on their door in the middle of the night, but when he asked who it was, they wouldn't answer and just kept knocking, so he didn't answer the door. I'm not sure if it was connected, but if it was, that just makes this even scarier. We spent the rest of the day on the beach, exploring nearby towns and hitting bars. Nothing happened that night. We left the next day. I still wonder what I would have seen if I had lifted the blind. I was 9 years old when this happened. For whatever reason, I was home alone one night, so I was playing video games upstairs in my room. I wasn't allowed to answer the door to anyone when I was home alone. Whenever I was left alone, it wasn't for long. My mom would just be out grocery shopping or something like that. I was playing Metroid Prime on my GameCube. I used to be obsessed with that game. I heard the house phone downstairs start to ring. My mom always told me to pick up the phone if it rang, in case it was her calling. So I hurried downstairs, and by maybe the fourth ring, I picked up. The caller ID was from my mom's cell phone. She said, "Sweetie, can you come outside and help with the groceries?" I replied, "Mom?" She said back, "Yes." I felt like something sounded off with her voice. You obviously know your own mom's voice, and so even at such a young age, when I was questioning why it didn't sound like her, I said, "Why do you sound like that?" She replied, "Like what, sweetie?" And I hung up. My mom would never use the word sweetie like that, especially twice in a matter of seconds. The phone rang again, and my mom's number came up on the caller ID again. I ignored it. For some reason, my heart was racing. I was nervous. I sat in the kitchen, waiting to see if the phone would ring a third time, and it did. It took a couple minutes before the third ringing, but when I checked the caller ID, this time it was a different number. I picked up, and a man's voice on the other end said, "Hey James, I know this is gonna sound weird, but it's your dad. I'm outside." All I could mutter out was a weak, "What?" The man said, "I'm outside. I have a lot to explain." I hung up right then and there. My dad died when I was 3. I have no memories of him. My suspicion was in fact true, that the first voice I heard was not my mom's. The phone rang again, and then again after that. I ignored it each time. I couldn't even call my mom because someone clearly had her phone. Then things took a turn for the worse, when there were knocks at the front door. This went from a "someone has my mom's phone" situation to a "someone is outside the house" situation. My mom would not be knocking on the door. She'd have a key, obviously. I peered around the wall of the kitchen to look at the front door. I heard a man's muffled voice on the other side saying my name. He was saying, "It's your dad." He rang the doorbell, and then I heard him start attempting to open the door. I did something that no 9-year-old should ever have to do, and that was grabbing the phone and calling 911. The 911 operator asked me what I imagined to be some pretty standard questions, most importantly telling me to wait in a bathroom or other room with a lockable door until the police get there. The bathroom is on the first floor of the house. I hid in there with the lights off. Whoever was outside came to the window and tried pulling it open. I heard their entire struggle. Then they must have moved to the next window. I think they tried every window and door in the house. If anything were to have been unlocked, this story would have had a very different outcome. They must have given up at some point before the police arrived. And I say they, because clearly there were 2 people involved in this, a man and a woman. They both could have been out there for all I know. The operator told me that the police are at the front door now, and it's safe to go meet them there. Only when I opened the door to the police was when I hung up the phone. They did a quick investigation inside and outside of the house, and asked me where my mom was supposed to be, and if my mom knew anyone who might want to hurt us. I'm sure I said I thought she was grocery shopping or something, and not that I know of. My mom returned home with my little sister in a panic when she saw the police cars out front. My mom's phone was stolen. It was already clear. I'm sure that our address, home phone number, and other personal information was stored somewhere on the phone, easily accessible, though how they knew my name, I'm not exactly sure. Something on my mom's phone must have given it away. It was an old Nokia flip phone. Who stole it was a mystery. But my mom's phone background was a picture of her with my little sister and I. This could have been an indication to some disgusting, creepy couple out there that the owner of this phone was a single mom with 2 young kids. And they tried to use that as a way of tricking me into leaving the house, which is absolutely disgusting and horrific. The phone must have been destroyed after the failed attempts at trying to lure me outside. Things were a little different after this. My mom wouldn't leave me alone anymore at night. Not until I was a few years older, at least.